Of the center, 55 miles southeast of the mouth of the Mississippi River. If it were a wagon wheel, it looks like a wheel with a couple spokes knocked out for the time being, but still, it could pose a lot of trouble with that convection, with those bands that come on shore. Not out of the question to have some tornadic activity, heavy rainfall, and possibly some life-threatening flooding. Let's continue on with the path of what we can anticipate with Marco. Now, we do expect, again, winds to diminish. You go into Tuesday morning and notice they dropped around 35 miles per hour if this forecast validates. Then we springboard all the way into Wednesday morning, possibly due north of Houston. But one thing to consider is that even outside of the cone, you've got other concerns to contend with. For example, where we happen to be and where Pensacola happens to be well outside of the cone of the system, we've got the heavy rain and the issues there. Let's continue on with what we have in southeast Louisiana, parts of the Mississippi coastline as well. The tropical storm warning shaded in red across the landscape. When that rain comes down, it gets stacked up very quickly. We've got a flash flood watch that extends from Bayou Battery over to Orange Beach. Plenty of green on the radar there, or rather on the map there. From Pensacola back into Gulfport, New Orleans, and due south of Baton Rouge. But keep in mind that if you do have some of those heavier bands that move into places like Red Stick along the banks of the Mississippi, there's no reason to think that you could not have flash flooding. So if you live close, I'd say within 45 minutes to an hour's drive, maybe a little more from the Gulf Coast at this time. With the system, you need to be on guard. In fact, as we roll forward the next couple of days, it's going to move farther inland. Of course, we're talking about Laura. Now, we are got the storm surge warning that's also in effect. You see it in various shades of pink, stretching from Biloxi clear down to spots like Venice, Louisiana, Grand Isle, south of Morgan City, any place that is in contact with that water, be it some parts of the bayou, be it parts of, say, Lake Pontchartrain, you can see that water beginning to pile up. Now, we have to give a tip to the captain the great job, the fearless work of the men and women who fly the Hurricane Hunter aircraft already. They've got one flight to finish today, another one scheduled at 1:15. And certainly the bumpiest of bumpy flights, but the information they get is priceless. So important to give us an idea of what we can expect as we roll forward up the next several hours and out of the days. All right, from where we stand in Waveland, Waveland has got the storied history. You'll think back into 1969 when you had Hurricane Camille that came on shore. Now, if you were to, say, walk a couple of football fields distance, 600 yards farther inland, you'd find a railroad, the Louisville-Nashville Railroad. Everything from that vantage point cleared into the water was pretty much destroyed. In more recent history, some 15 years ago, you had a name that many of you will never forget, especially who live in the region, that being Katrina. 50 people lost their lives, and those who experienced that storm, their lives were forever changed. But Katrina didn't only affect this area, also affected places over in New Orleans. That's where we find Tevin Wooten. Tevin, New Orleans.